More than $1 trillion is down the drain. That might be China's future as their Belt and Road Initiative is in shambles. The BRI is a colossal global infrastructure project, sometimes referred to as the New Silk Road. But more and more countries are bailing out of this project. The reasons range from COVID-19, excessive borrowing and lending, and the Ukraine war. But stick around for all the details, as the truth is not so simple. What is the Belt and Road Initiative? The BRI would connect East Asia and Europe through physical infrastructure, but it has since expanded its scope. It stretches across Africa, Oceania, and Latin America. This expansion has bolstered China's economic and political sway on the world stage. The BRI was first conceived during President Xi Jinping's official visits to Kazakhstan and Indonesia in 2013. At the ASEAN summit in Indonesia, President Xi unveiled the 21st century Maritime Silk Road. This involved developing ports from Southeast Asia to East Africa and parts of Europe to support growing maritime trade. It featured two main components: the Silk Road Economic Belt overland and the Maritime Silk Road. These combined initiatives were termed the One Belt, One Road. Nowadays it's known as the Belt and Road Initiative. Xi had a grand vision. The BRI would consist of a vast network of railways, energy pipelines, highways, and efficient border crossings. These networks would span westward through former Soviet republics. It would expand southwards as well into Pakistan, India, and Southeast Asia. The overarching goal was to boost global adoption of China's currency and address Asia's substantial infrastructure financing shortfall. This was estimated at over $900 billion yearly in 2018. However, the immense scale of the BRI has led to a complex challenge for China. It's accumulated a list of countries worldwide grappling with mounting debts. Nations such as Argentina, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan, Venezuela, Zambia, and Iran, initially attracted by Chinese overseas lending, now face looming debt crisis. The World Bank has even issued warnings suggesting that these financial problems could lead to defaults on a scale not seen since the 1980s. When the BRI continues to reshape global connectivity and expand China's influence, it also exposes China to substantial financial risks. This dual impact shows how the BRI is both an opportunity and a challenge for China. China's BRI isn't just about building a road, it's also about creating economic zones, promoting technology, and connecting the world. The BRI's scale is mind-boggling. It involves 147 countries covering 2/3 of the global population and 40% of the world's GDP. Notable projects include the $62 billion China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, connecting China to Pakistan's Gwadar port. China has already invested about $1 trillion. Total could soar to an estimated $8 trillion. The BRI is as controversial as it is ambitious. Rising project costs have led to opposition in some countries. The US and some Asian nations are worried that it could serve as a front for China's regional dominance and military expansion. President Joe Biden shares these concerns, but struggles to present an appealing economic alternative to BRI participants. China's motivations for the BRI are both geopolitical and economic. President Xi wants a more assertive China, even though the country's debt has surged to over a quarter of its GDP. The BRI is part of Xi's grand plan. It works alongside things like Made in China 2025. For Xi, the BRI helps China stand strong against the US, pivot to Asia, and build new trade routes. These routes boost China's income and deal with its overproduction problem. Experts say China's doing a good job of changing global trade maps. They're making China the center of it all. China also claims to connect with its western regions, like Xinjiang. There's trouble there, so they're keen to develop it. Plus, they want a steady energy supply from places like Central Asia and the Middle East, away from the reach of the US military. China's leaders have big dreams. They don't want to get stuck in the middle-income trap. It's a tricky spot most middle-income countries end up in. Wages rise, lives improve, but they struggle to make advanced goods and services. Lastly, China could use the BRI for global power plays. They have clauses in their loan deals that stop countries from restructuring debt with the Paris Club. The Paris Club is a group of 22 major creditor nations. China can also ask for their money back whenever they want, so if someone misbehaves on issues like Taiwan or the Uyghurs, China has got a trump card. In January 2022, Nicaragua joined the BRI. Just a month earlier, they severed ties with Taiwan. The BRI isn't all smooth sailing. It's faced some opposition. Some countries that took big loans for BRI projects now see them as risky businesses. China sees these projects as business deals with loans at near market rates expected to be fully paid back. However, some BRI projects had shady bidding processes, making countries use Chinese companies. This led to higher costs, projects getting cancelled, and political heat. Take Malaysia, for example. Their former Prime Minister, Mahathir bin Mohamad, didn't like the overpriced BRI deals. He even cancelled $22 billion worth of BRI projects. Later, he did a U-turn and said he was all in for BRI. Debt to China has shot up since 2013, going over 20% of GDP in some places. Then came COVID-19 and Russia's move in Ukraine. Lots of low-income BRI countries couldn't repay their loans. This led to debt crises and more BRI bashing. Pakistan, for instance, relied on imports to build its part of the BRI known as CPEC. This blew up their budget deficit and got them an IMF bailout. Ghana and Zambia got into sovereign default because they had massive debts, including BRI loans. But often countries have no other choice but to take these loans. Critics also tie BRI to climate change. China says they'd stop building coal-fired power plants abroad in 2021, but almost half of BRI spending still goes into non-renewable energy. It's unclear if the promise covers ongoing projects or only new ones, and if it blocks coal power plant financing, not just construction. BRI countries are in hot water. The Sri Lankan president fled the country because of the economy. The country is suffering a financial crisis and is unable to pay its debt, triggering protests in the process. Kyrgyzstan, like Sri Lanka, is in the same boat. They'd borrowed billions from China's Export-Import Bank over the past 10 years, and this was all for projects tied to China's BRI. Kyrgyzstan's debt was over $5.1 billion, and a whopping 42% of that was owed to China. The trouble was that Kyrgyzstan couldn't make enough money from these Chinese-backed projects to pay back what they owed. People started worrying that they might not even afford the interest on their loans. If things went bad, they'd have to hand over some valuable assets to pay back China. Kyrgyzstan's officials were fully aware of the severity of the issues. They said that if they do not pay this debt, China's Export-Import Bank can take over projects. This has already happened in Pakistan and Sri Lanka. This isn't just Kyrgyzstan's problem. Along the Belt and Road, other countries are struggling to pay their debts too. China, for the first time, is dealing with a debt crisis outside its borders. People are starting to ask questions about how China's lending is making things harder for these governments. Experts say that this crisis is no doubt setting off red lights in China's Ministry of Finance and Central Bank. So why is this happening? BRI has made China the world's top lender. They've thrown around $932 billion in just 8 years. But even before this financial mess, there were problems with the BRI. Lots of loans started rotting away. Chinese loans that needed haggling shot up to $52 billion in 2020 and 2021. That's 3 times more than before. A study done by economists paints a clear picture of today's debt mess. It weighs a whopping 60% of China's loans go to countries that are financially struggling. That's a huge leap from just 5% back in 2010 before the BRI rolled out. Another group of researchers found that 35% of BRI projects are going down the drain. They're facing some big problems in getting things done. China's reached a crossroads after almost a decade of wild lending through the BRI mask. It's like they've hit a roadblock thanks to rising prices, expensive energy, and the consequences of the Ukraine war and COVID-19. China might be thinking it's time to slow down their project. They're getting anxious about countries not paying them back. Some experts say China is suffering the consequences at home and becoming more selective about who they lend to. This is the start of a new BRI era. China's handing out rescue loans. China's feeling the heat, so they're handing out rescue loans to stop the ship from sinking. They've already given tens of billions to countries like Pakistan, Belarus, Egypt, Mongolia, Turkey, and Sri Lanka. This helps them pay off their loans and not crash and burn. China is at a major turning point here. This debt disaster is unlike anything they've ever seen. They're rewriting the BRI rules on the go in order to remedy the situation. In July of 2023, the Green Finance and Development Center said that the BRI was playing it safe. They're not investing in Russia like they used to. Even Pakistan is getting less attention. Their engagement with the country is down by 56%. Instead, China's focusing on oil and gas, pouring money into energy and construction. Saudi Arabia's getting the biggest slice. Roughly 66% of China's construction contracts belong to them. China is now pursuing investments that they can reap the rewards from more quickly. These include resources instead of big infrastructure projects. It's a smarter bet for China's wallets. China's got a tough challenge ahead. Debt's spreading like wildfire, global growth is slowing, and China's playing it safe. They've tried rescue loans, but that didn't stop Sri Lanka from crashing to a long-term problem. They can buy you time, but they're not something that will pull you out of the debt trap. Now the big question is, will China join hands with international groups to fix this mess in BRI countries? Before, they'd just delay things, rework the debt, and give people time to figure it out. But China's not too keen on refinancing, and they haven't always played nice with other lenders. What do you think? What moves will China make now? And what do you think will be the future of BRI? Leave a comment on your thoughts and be sure to watch the next video.